might have my own sitcom with things I can't say on this podcast.
It's what she wants is she'll edit that out later. But
you're listening to Hangar 8, the Medrunner podcast about Star Citizen. Medrunner is a community organization that provides in-game medical and rescue services through our emergency portal at medrunner.space.
On today's episode, we get into the 4.0 update, as well as our hopes and dreams for CitizenCon 2025.
This is Hangar 8. I'm Gryffkin.
And I'm Virus 8. On today's episode, we're coming back from a brief hiatus to discuss what it's been like since the 4.0 drop.
Okay, so we took a bit of a unplanned hiatus in February and March. It was just really busy for everybody, just personal life, frankly. And I think because of the state of 4.0, even over the last 2 months, the game just wasn't that engaging. There were these events being run, but I could not log in for the longest time. That was really frustrating. Medrunner services were in a closed state for about 3 or 4 weeks in January. And even on resuming, a lot of other people could play, but I couldn't. I was just constantly stuck in a shard lock.
And play is such a strong word, right? So I've gone on duty, probably half a dozen times in the last month. And I have yet to do a single response that wasn't plagued by some sort of problematic bug. Whether that was can't pull ships spontaneously disappearing, can't get party markers, can't get into parties, can't get into servers, your pilot gets shard locked out. It's been difficult. It's been challenging. And it's not just us, right? I've talked to other players who are just trying to do their other game mechanics, moving things, even trying to engage in some of that new gameplay, and they can't, despite the fact that, their big selling point on the chairman's letter was, hey, 4.0 is and beyond is going to focus on playability. It seems like more stuff is broken than ever. And I remember a time when Star Citizen was a very playable game. 3.17, I know, old dog going back 2 years now, was an entirely playable game. There were very few bugs. It was very stable. And I get that we've done some big technological steps since then. We have 600 player servers and big changes to the way the game functions in the background. But it really I know it's alpha, but it really feels like early alpha gameplay instead of 12 years into alpha gameplay.
So many of the game loops are so broken. I was losing more money than I was making, and I had to just stop. Even just trying to take a basic salvage contract, I ran into so many issues. And the freight elevator's not working, and hangar doors visually being open but actually being closed, or not being able to quantum and being stuck, and just being grateful that I was in a ship that I could bed log in so that I could server hop and quantum. I was getting to a point where I had lost so much money just trying to make money that I was in a state I could have gotten pretty much just stuck in and would have needed somebody to just send me money.
I think I did, actually. I sent you and several other players money. I made a good chunk of money early on because they had the thing where you could all get the rewards from contracts, which was really, really nice. But there was a period for me where I tried for half an hour to get just off of the planet I was on. And every time I'd get cleared to launch, my hangar and another player's hangar would merge, and our ships would just explode because we were suddenly inside each other, and I'd wake up in a bed in a tower. That happened consistently for half an hour.
I couldn't get into my hangar. It just would not ever show up on the elevator menu. There was just unknown, and I tried entering it and immediately got spaced. And I was like, okay, so it's not mine. On my home location at Orison, and I was calling different ship sizes, and I'm like, it shouldn't matter. I should be getting an XL hangar regardless, my XL personal hangar. And I just never could get in. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just stuck until somebody can come get me. I just gave up.
We went to do a rescue the other night, and it would only send us to docking port 2. It didn't matter which button you picked. It could be any button on the hangar menu, your hangar, somebody else's hangar, even lobby. And it would only take you to docking port 2. even if you were already at docking port 2.
That's a bug that I've been experiencing for ages that still hasn't gotten fixed. Party markers not appearing is an issue that got fixed and has been reverted. It's an issue again.
Compasses are an issue again. They can't decide which way they're pointing. I've had hot fixes change which direction a compass is pointing.
With 3.23, north was swapped from OM1 to OM3. And that's been something that the navigation tooling community, like Murphy Exploration Group and Delta Consulting, have been struggling with since then. And now it seems to randomly flip-flop between OM1 and OM3, which is much worse than it at least consistently being OM3, which makes no sense as OM3 is around the equator of a planet and not at either of the poles, but at least it was consistent. Now, who knows? Navigation is no longer possible.
No, and it's not just navigation that makes that frustrating, right? It was really awesome that they added a compass to the HUD on the ground, but I can't use it for anything, right? So if it worked, it'd be very useful for some of our milsim players or even us to do, hey, we're going to use this for CAS, close air support. We're going to use this to call out, hey, here's your good landing vector, right? And this has become a thing, especially as those bunker turrets have been on crack lately. Hey, you're going to want to approach from this direction. Well, if my compass isn't the same as your compass, that information is useless. It's super problematic, and it's not a new bug. This has been a thing we've been facing since, what, like you said, 3.23, which was a year ago now.
It's just really disappointing that so many of these issues are taking so long to fix. And while we're getting new issues introduced and new gameplay mechanics introduced, we were told the focus was on playability, but it doesn't seem to be actually happening. As we move into this new item recovery mechanic with T0 item recovery, it's like, okay, it has made people's inventory even more broken and respawning even more broken.
Inventory has been a thing that's been broken for some time now. One of the things, in addition to being in charge of director of the academy, we do logistics. We have a whole logistics department, and their job is to supply Medrunners to make sure everybody has their gear, so there's as low a bar to entry as possible, right? You could come to Medrunner with literally no money, and we will pick you up, bring you to the muster point, and give you a full starter set of equipment. But it gets so much harder when whole boxes containing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of AUEC worth of equipment just disappear for no reason, into the ether, just gone.
I've talked to several people now about this. When you give someone a crate and then they put it on their freight elevator and send it down, their entire inventory becomes inaccessible until they relog or wait 45 minutes to an hour. That's atrocious.
And it breaks the way we transfer gear.
It breaks things for everybody who sells gear on a C marketplace. It breaks things for orgs who exist to get gear and weapons and sell them to you, because you effectively, at least for some players, cannot trade items.
And they're going to go, well, we don't support the gray market or whatever. But here's the thing.
It's not gray market. It's not gray market. Not on a C marketplace where you're selling for AUEC, or you have a set of gear and somebody's like, oh, I want that legendary duster set. Here, I'll give you AUEC, or I'll trade you a pile of FS9s. That's not gray market. We're not even talking real cash. We're talking just regular gameplay loops of trading items in game is now not possible for some people.
Here's the thing that always gets me on this, right? They talk about not adding new content and adding playability. You're not supporting the orgs, right? You haven't given us any organizational tools. You haven't given us anything to support internal marketplace and internal trade. And it's killing so many orgs and so many game loops, and it's driving that player apathy. I've seen way lower server totals than usual, and I can tell you for certain that our call volume as Medrunner is way down over these patches, because so many things are broken and so many of these self-built game loops just don't feel supported.
Yeah, let's talk about game loops, right? So salvage is broken because the last several times I was out on my reclaimer or my vulture, the scraping appears visually, but you get nothing added to your depot. Cool. So that was a contract that I took that is now completely down the drain because my depot now apparently maxes out at 3 SCU. Neat. What a great way to run Supplier Die, an event about running salvage and materials and freight.
Yeah, I got so tired of trying to do Supplier Die the right way because things kept disappearing. It wouldn't accept my box when I went to turn it in, right? Like the gameplay loop was so broken, I just went the capitalism route and started collecting all the resources and selling them to players who were trying to complete the story because I just gave up on the mission.
I wound up never completing any of the steps because I literally couldn't. I finally got some salvage and then I wasn't able to quantum anywhere. And I tried everything. I wound up just having to bedlog and server hop and hope that I could quantum again.
No, and I had more than once. I was ready to hand stuff off to somebody who wanted to buy it to do the event. And we both had to server hop again because we couldn't transfer inventory, anything, right? Like I couldn't even open my inventory at the terminals or get the freight elevator to load and be like, all right, well, there's going to be another 20 minutes while we log out, log back in, get back to my hangar and do this transfer. And this is just insane.
And it means that even things like piracy don't make sense because what? You're going to steal stuff that you then can't get down a freight elevator to sell? You're going to attempt to steal something from somebody who's like, cool, I've got nothing on here because I couldn't get anything. You're fighting over resources that are intentionally limited to a certain degree, but have been over limited because the state of the game is so poor right now.
There's no reason I should have been able to fly through Pyro with a caterpillar literally full of ice during the supplier die event and face not even a little bit of attempted piracy. And the answer I got, like, because I talked to some of my friends who do less, less than legal materials acquisition, who do that. And they're like, yeah, it's just not, we haven't played because it's not worth it. Like we'll do cool and we'll get a ship and then it'll bug out and all the cargo will just spontaneously disappear, or it'll tractor bug and we won't be able to move it, or we'll get it all the way back to a place where we can sell it and then our ship spontaneously despawns as we're walking to the ship movement and cargo elevator and takes all the stuff with it.
You know, the drive for going to contested zones was largely to get your high-end military components. Except with soft wipes still resetting ship components, it doesn't feel worth it. So the only people who are going to contested zones are people who are purely looking for PvP. And they don't care about your stuff. And they're not trying to get the items in the contested zone. They're just waiting for people. They're just camping the contested zone because there's not anything of value there other than the PvP fights.
At least in the old patch soft wipes, most of the time your ship components would end up back. Most of them would end up in your inventory. And even if they didn't, you could go buy them relatively easily.
Sure.
Even if you couldn't, right? I get not being able to buy the highest end of components, but why do I have to jump to 9 different, like, I'd get it if a shipyard specialized in, say, racing or size 1 or even both, right? Hey, Crow's Custom is where you go to fit out your size 1 racing ships. If you want military stuff, you've got to go here. Why is it that Crow's Custom has like one size 1 jump drive at class B, but only military at class C for shield? It's not logical, the spread they carry. Again, if you're like, oh, well, we go to Crow's Custom to get the racing one, and then we go over here to get this military shield, and then here to get the coolers because they're the best. I could buy that, but I should be able to get a reasonable fit at a place that says, hey, we're a ship fitter for custom racing vehicles, right? I should be able to go to Crow's Custom and maybe not get tier A stuff, but I should be able to get all tier B racing for one size 1 ship. That would seem reasonable to me, but that's not what you can get. You can't get even tier B of something across the board for a ship there.
Yeah, it is a fully artificial way to force players to move about the system to make some of these areas relevant because there's no other reason you would go to them. There's no other reason to go to Hurl 5 other than that component you need is only sold there. That's it. But it feels bad. It feels so artificial. It feels so forced. Even more so now that you have to rebuy your components all the time. I don't even bother anymore. I'm mostly not bothering to outfit anything that isn't my fighter. I outfit my F7A Mark II, and that's it, because it's going to be a waste of money and a waste of energy to do anything else. It certainly feels like a waste of energy to go to a contested zone to try to get components because I'm probably going to lose those components on the next hotfix.
And those hotfixes come so fast and there's no warning. I have lost a contested zone component within the hour to a hotfix. And that was the last one. That was the last time I went, and I'm just I was like, nope, I did like 2.5 hours worth of work and it's gone.
And, I don't have a problem with the contested zones being prep work and difficult and having PvP because the reward is quite good, except the reward can be taken from you at any time. So it's no longer worth the effort. I heard the same thing from people who did the executive hangers. It's like, cool, I did that. How long am I going to have this? Oh, it's gone tomorrow? Sweet. I'm glad I spent all of that time for a game reward that is now gone. And it really devalues the time you spend in the game.
I wish they did it from like a lore perspective, right? Hey, you can only get this one component at Hurrell 5, let's say. It's the one place you can get this really nice stealth drive. But it's because there's a cool stealth manufacturer there. And so they make, these mainline stealth components. Okay, sure, whatever. But why is it that even in the large cities I can't get a baseline loadout? I'd get it if you're like, hey, you can't get the Class A and the Class Bs everywhere, right? Class A's are only special rewards or, ludicrously expensive from these very limited locations. Okay, fine. And Class Bs, you've got to go to a specialized manufacturer for some of this stuff, or there's a unique variant. That would drive games, but you cannot tell me that in any functioning baseline realistic economy that somewhere like New Babbage, the center for drive technology, right? Oh, well, there's not a single Class B quantum drive for tier ones in anywhere in this massive industrial city center.
And it doesn't make sense because you still can just fly to some other random location and buy it, right? It's not that they've said we want to lock Class B drives behind doing a mission. It's like, oh, no, you just have to arbitrarily fly somewhere else because we wanted to make these locations feel relevant. And you know what? Newsflash, it does not make the location feel more relevant. People buy their drive and then leave.
And that's where, look, if we had a way to actually transfer ship components, which is one of my other big gripes, is you can't really make a player market for them because they're impossible to transport because they don't fit in anything. Entirely
not anymore.
Separate complaint. But if you had a player market, right, this is where you could make transport and sale such a relevant game loop. If you had a player market and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just the ship component guy for, say, I don't know, Port Tressler, right? Whatever. And your gameplay loop is that I fly out to these 24 stations collecting the nicest of components, and I bring them back and I offer them for sale at my little shop here on the station.
Even just I'm on station right now. We're like, yeah, I just park myself on Loreville and I'm like, hey, it's me. I'm online. If you're buying ships at New Deal and you need components, send me a party invite, come to my hangar. I got all of the components so you don't have to fly around.
Just like a
that is not even something that casual, that unsupported and ad hoc is not possible right now for a variety of reasons. One being because you cannot transport ship components without them being installed on your ship. And two, because you can't give people stuff because once it's down their freight elevator, who knows what happens.
And that's, it's not so bad if it's a couple P4ARs that cost you a couple thousand, but when it's 1.5 million AUEC of ship components, that hurts a little more.
Especially when it is so difficult to make money because trading is broken, salvaging is broken, contracts payouts are no longer shared fully, which was frankly some of the best fun I had in ages in this game when contract payouts were full for everybody involved. We were running huge crews. We were having so much fun. And then, oh, hey, that was a bug. We're taking that away from you. And now I've done very little multiplayer. I haven't done any multiplayer with my friends because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense anymore. With how much loss you take during trying to make money, you can't take any cuts to your payout. You can't afford it. Otherwise, you're literally spending more money than you're making. I'm running a reclaimer solo most of the time because I'm going to lose most of it anyway. This is the third time I've tried to get out. I've had to claim my ship. Oh boy, at least I'm not losing gear when I spontaneously die. That's such a great change.
I would love right, as someone who's played other space games, if you told me I could be a little ship parts peddler and take my caterpillar about, with the different bays loaded with parts, and you could show up and be like, hey, I'll give you this for that. Just like I was like, all I could think of was like the Wild West guy with the Conestoga wagon with the like little pots and pans hanging off the side, coming around and being like, hear ye, I got pots, I got pans, I got coffee grinders, come get what you need, right? I'd be so into that game loop. It should be feasible. Why can't I load ship components onto the floor of my Caterpillar C2 and strap them down, quote unquote? Even if you made me physically do it, I'd be fine with that. Hey, come to my hangar and buy some ship components.
I understand the shift away from being able to just like shove a bunch of size 5 weapons into an 8 SCU box. That was a little absurd, but I'm looking at a gun and I'm looking at my C2 and I'm like, this fits on the floor.
It's mounted on several places on this ship. You're telling me I can't fit one inside it.
Like I'm looking at it and I'm like doing the hand measurement thing. And then I'm looking at the C2 and doing the hand measurement thing. And I'm like, it would fit. I could just put it on the floor. Let me.
If I can fit the whole ship inside of my ship, why can't I fit its components inside my ship?
Yeah.
So you're telling me I can park an Aurora on board fitted with size 1 components?
But I can't take a size 1 component and just put it on the floor. Why?
In the real world, we make these things, they're called boxes. I don't know, CIG, if you've heard of them. I know it's a wild concept, but like I have seen immense objects transported in boxes. I have seen jet engines. I've seen a nuclear reactor transported in a box.
I've seen things transported massive distances, not in boxes. In fact,
Yeah.
just strapped to truck beds, like giant chunks of wind turbine.
Yeah.
It's just on there with some straps. No box needed. It's crazy. Wild. But the other thing that's so painful is when I go to outfit my F7A, I have to decide, well, if I'm changing my quantum drive or shields, I kind of just have to leave that old component behind at the station where I buy the new one, which is weird. And if I'm going to buy new weapons, I have to decide, do I fly this out with no weapons so that I have extra weapons to swap to? It means I can't have multiple loadout options because I have to just leave my original components behind wherever I buy the new ones. I can't use those older components, those original components on a different vehicle. I can't decide, well, I want these components in these situations and the new components in another situation. Too bad. You can't do that. Why?
Why can't I be a Kaylee putting all my ships together with bubblegum and wire with mismatched components and tuning them just right to the situation we're facing? Give me that engineering, right?
We've made ship weapon choices matter much more. We've made ship component choices matter much more. And yet I am no longer managing my loadouts. When I go on a mission or when I respond to an alert, I'm no longer going, okay, well, this is what I'm expecting, so this is how I'm going to outfit my ship. Nope, because I can't have an additional set of components on station.
I can't keep both ballistics and lasers on station to swap for when needed. I can't swap my missile types for when needed, right? Because I would bring different loadouts. There's the standard basic, hey, this is going to handle most things. But sometimes you go out on a bounty or out on a mission and what's waiting for you. And that tailors what you'd bring. So my only other option, and it's what I do half the time now, is I own a couple of different Hornet variants. And I have them loaded for different purposes, which is a huge pain in the butt, especially because despite the fact they're pledged, I have more than once had to say, hey, can you restore my pledge ship that I paid real actual money for to my inventory?
It makes components feel somehow less meaningful because I have to just go with my like dead average, pretty good in every situation loadout rather than this is my loadout for bounty hunting. This is my loadout when I respond on an alert. This is my loadout when I'm going to jump town. It doesn't matter because I can't keep extra components on hand. So whatever, we go with what we've got.
It does not spark joy.
No, it does not spark joy. It sparks nostalgia and sadness.
Switching into something perhaps not so negative. Since we've been gone, there have been some new additions that were pretty awesome that I'd like to take a chance to talk about, which are some of the new ships and equipment we've gotten since our last discussion here. So that's January, February, March. The most recent two of which were the Golem and it's the Geo, right? That's the name of the
new Atlas. Yeah.
Which I will say, I have had a ton of fun in a jetpack mech suit. What I want to know is when can I rip off the mining laser and strap on a size 1 autocannon?
I mean, the mining laser shreds ship shields. So, we're halfway there.
Turns out 28 seconds of that mining laser is enough to kill a Polaris. I'm sure that's a bug that will eventually be fixed, but
it's the fastest time to kill on a Polaris of anything in the game, including another Polaris.
Drill a hole through you and you just spontaneously explode. I know a lot of people have expressed their displeasure over the Atlas series. I like them. I enjoy piloting them. Should you have to pay $40 for one? No, but they're fun. They do add some utility. They are beneficial and I think they fit in the lore, and I'm happy with what we've gotten so far. I'm super waiting for the day that I can strap, machine gun to the side and we can Titanfall from, everybody jumping out the sides of a Caterpillar, an M2, or soon an Ironclad, right? That's the next
Yeah. Oh, just a cargo hold full of Titan suits in my Ironclad assault. Really bringing the assault to the Ironclad assault. That's the dream. That's what I want.
I can just see a ballista for air defense, 2 Novas, and a dozen Atlas warsuits just stomping out the front ramp of an Ironclad assault, and you're just I've made a mistake today.
Is that too much to ask?
I really don't think it is, because we used to do something very similar in an org that no longer exists that I was a part of, where we'd take an M2 and you'd do hot drops, where you'd come down low, kind of slow, and we'd roll a couple of the, what are the little Jeep ones with the AA and one size 1 cannon on the back? The Cyclones, yes. We'd roll a couple of those, maybe a Spartan, usually a ballista for the AA, and then 2 Novas off the back of somewhere to go assault a thing. Whether that was we're going to screw around at Jumptown, or we're just having fun at one of the outposts, the little village sites that used to have endlessly spawning dozens upon dozens of enemies. It was just so fun to roll through there with a deployed little armor recon company. And we haven't done stuff like that in a while. And I'd really love to see something like that again, especially because we have 600 player servers now. Think of the massive land battles you could do. That should be Daymar Rally, but hey, instead we're doing this 1 kilometer square out in the desert here, and y'all are going to fight for it.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
Maybe when we have bases and people have to defend them, go assault somebody else's base. So we got Ironclad coming soon. The other ship that we've heard progress about that I'm really, 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 really hoping for Fleet Week this year is the one that they endlessly teased me on the way to Fleet Week with the ads last year, and that's the Apollo. It's gone to gray box. I'm very excited about it. They've talked a lot about their company assets, right? So RSI has a series of assets, Drake has a series of assets, which lets them put these ships out a little bit faster, which I think is a really cool, their modular kit way to do it. That's why we got the Golem. I've seen the Apollo's gone to gray box, which means soon. Maybe not even TM soon.
Maybe actually soon. That would be incredible.
With either the Perseus or the Paladin and an Apollo, we have a new ship package. And I'm not saying I want the Polaris to die, but the Polaris is a wonderful ship for many purposes. It just does not feel right as a medical rescue ship.
Absolutely. And because it's not, it is, it is a Corvette essentially that has a medical bay on it. But the reason it's being selected is because, for one, it's new and shiny and fun. And for two, it's a tank. It's a tank with a med bay in it. It's delightful.
It's pretty hard to kill unless you happen to have a Geo.
Or a Pulse.
Here I come at Mock Jesus. I don't care about your PDCs because they're not going to have enough time to engage me. Coming in at 1,200 meters a second, just plant yourself into the side of a Polaris. Which, there was a time when that did not work, and that frustrated me to an extent, because look, if I hit you with a big rock moving 1,200 meters per second, that is a lot of energy. It's got to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere. But also, the Polaris has extremely large shields.
Yeah.
That seem to not care at all about tiny little ships. a little weird.
I'm not saying that your big shield shouldn't be able to deflect something like that, but it should drain them pretty far.
Your shield should take a hit. If we throw enough pulses at a Polaris, it should take the shield down. But it should be more than one.
Heck, I've seen a Polaris shrug off being hit by another Polaris at max velocity, and that just does not feel right to me.
I have slammed my Polaris into an Idris repeatedly, trying to die, and been okay. I am talking full boost into an Idris 6 or 7 times, totally fine.
Which just proves to me that the Polaris is better than the Idris.
Ooh, careful. Careful. The walls have ears, and those ears love the Idris.
They do indeed. I have a bit of a sour spot over the Paladin, but I think that will be a cool new ship when it comes out. I think it is the ship that made the Redeemer bad on purpose to sell more Paladins. That is not, I do not represent the brand or the company here, right? That is Virus 8's personal opinion.
It's an opinion that many people would share, though, because that's kind of what it felt like with the announcement. It was like, hey, we nerfed the Redeemer, but you want to buy something that's better than the Redeemer now.
For an extra $100, you too can have a ship that actually does what you wanted the Redeemer to do in the first place. I will say, however, the Terrapin Medical has been nothing but a absolute dream of a ship. I've been very happy with it. It's very on brand. It fits the role very well. I think it fits a good niche. I think having a couple of these medical ships out there is good. And while I will forever love my Cutlass Red, we've gotten to a point where we have, with the Apollo, we will have a pretty good range of rescue ships that fit their roles well and have definitive different niches. That is important, I think. I think you should have that. And that's the same thing that I feel about the Golem, right? But you have your C8 or your C8R, right? Which fits your like, I need a cheap little ambulance to go pick up one person who isn't hurt so bad with a minimum crew, right? We one person flyable, have a second person for crew. They have a little jump seat. It feels very much like a Vambulance in the real world, right? Those little Dodge Sprinter van ambulances. The Terrapin Medical feels that next step up. It's way tankier. Way tankier than even the Cutlass Red, which is basically made out of paper mache that they strapped engines on the side of. Typical Drake. I love my Drakes, don't get me wrong, but have you heard of armor plating at all?
Tell me more about that. That sounds like a great idea on a medical extraction ship.
I have encountered tougher drywall. But the Terrapin really fits that extraction ship, right? It's very tanky. It's got good VTOL. It looks good. It's got a good medical interior. It's got space. It feels more like a either military ambulance or a type, we call them type B, the larger Vambulances. Then you get your Cutlass Red, which really does feel like perhaps a non-contested search and rescue ship. Hey, you're going to search after a battle. You're going to go clean up the mess.
Which is what it appears to have been designed for in the lore, right? It's supposed to have this enhanced radar. It's got a light on the top. It's for search and rescue primarily.
And I think it fills that role well, right? It's got extra space. You've got, 2 med beds, 2 bunk beds in the patient area. You've got space to put supplies. So if you need to keep extra suits for atmospheric rescue.
You could spend a lot of time in it with your crew over a couple of days in an area searching a grid, and it would feel pretty good.
It strikes me as very much like a search and rescue helicopter. You know, it's got airlocks on the side to do rescue work, maybe like a Coast Guard rescue cutter almost. It fits that niche very well. And then with the Apollo, you'll have that like high risk dust off, really going into harm's way, Pedro flights or Jolly Greens. And so I think we've kind of filled those roles there. And I'm happy to see that diversification.
I am too. And, I like that it feels like each ship could, when fully supported, have the correct niche, and you have a conversation about like, we take so-and-so's Apollo here, or we do need to do some search and rescue, let's grab the Cutlass. I'm just not really there yet, but I like the vision, and it makes me hopeful that medical gameplay continues to be a core gameplay loop in Star Citizen.
I think someday when we actually have large fleet actions, which I foresee now that we have larger servers, if the game was slightly more stable, I think that there are orgs that would get into that. Right? Hey, we're going to meet up at such and such a place for the fun of it. And just, hey, we brought a couple of Polarises and they've got supporting fighter wings, and we're just going to beat the snot out of each other in a fleet battle. I think once you get the Perseus, and maybe it'll wait to the Idris, I don't think it'll take that long. I think we'll see some of that action. I think you'll see like Polarises and Perseuses with fighter support going toe to toe in the void. And I think that's where your Cutlasses get to play a fun part. I think they get to play, and so do your Apollos, but I think the Cutlasses will be a fun fun bit of that, because you can hang out with your crew on the ship, you can bed log and just hang out in that space a little bit away in the void, waiting for the, hey, it's time to come pick up people. And you can do the same thing in battle with the Apollo or the Terrapin, going around scooping people who've had to bail out of their destroyed ships or punch out, actually eject from their fighters, with the goal being to return them faster to the battle, right? That's why it might need to wait a little while longer. But if even now, if you have something other than frontline Polarises, you can fit a few extra fighters on a Polaris, especially if we're already, you're not requiring them to quantum, right? So if I can, and you can land a Pisces or a Terrapin very easily in a Polaris. The Pisces you can land in the cargo bay instead of the fighter bay. If I keep a couple of those on board and we go scoop pilots as they eject and bring them right back to the Polaris, yes, you could bedlog, I suppose, to the Polaris, right? Or not bedlog, but respawn to the Polaris. I think that would be a neater way to do it. I think that might be at some point in the future when you can't just regen to a ship.
When you can't just regen to a ship, and when death feels like it matters, which death now feels even less like it matters than ever, which is a huge disappointment to me.
And to an organization that focuses on medical rescue.
And I think to a lot of people, it just sort of feels like a step backwards, especially with the implementation of Tier 3 bed respawning last year. It now means that, yeah, as long as you've hidden a medical Ursa somewhere and set your respawn, you can just, it's like Arena Commander. You can just respawn with everything you had on you as long as you holstered it and just get right back into the fight immediately. So who needs an escort fighter? Who needs backup? Who needs extra gear on hand when it doesn't matter?
When I can just take my meta pin. I prefer taking my Cutlass Red to bunkers because it has storage space. I can just take my Cutlass and spawn outside when I die, literally right outside the door of the bunker.
And just run back in. Oh, you lost everything that was in your backpack, but it's going to be on your body. That's fine. I still have my best armor set and my best weapons on me, so it doesn't matter. It's fine.
I'll just go pick my backpack up off my body. It's not a big deal.
I find it has made the gameplay more boring for me, frankly, and I hear that from a lot of people, that they're like, it just doesn't feel meaningful.
I understand what they were trying to do, right? Because there was a point before bed respawning that, like, you'd respawn all the way back where your point was set, and it would take you another 20, 30 minutes to get back to the thing you were doing. And because a lot of times your deaths were for stupid glitches, it didn't feel fair, right? Like,
totally.
I spent 30 minutes flying to this bunker, and then as soon as I came out of quantum, it sensed a small particle of dust in the air, and so I exploded.
Or the surface of the planet turns out it's not real, and now I am falling to my death. There were a lot of people in Medrunner who were concerned that the T0 changes would be kind of the end of alerts. We are still getting alerts. It's at a lower volume than it had been in the previous months before the changes, but a lot of people, that's what it is. They're like, oh, I'm just like, stuck way out here. I don't want to have to reset and take another 30 minutes and like reclaim my ship. There's stuff on my ship. So I do still want you to come pick me up, even though it's no longer about preserving the gear that's on my body. It's about saving me time and energy and setup. We're still getting that because that is still painful. And people continue to die to stupid bugs. And I find it an interesting decision to, rather than improve the game stability as promised, it's like, well, we're finally implementing gear recovery. And for this first tier, when you die to random garbage, you'll just keep everything that's on you. And so many people are thrilled about that, especially newer players. People who are not in large orgs to support them if they get in a weird spot are like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is going to save me so much time.
But it just feels cheap. I wish it worked more like insurance, where like does for ships, which is their later implementation, I know, but I don't understand why that wasn't the T0. Hey, you go to your gear terminal, you say, hey, this was my loadout, I'd like to buy it back. I lost it, I'm not wearing it, right? Hey, it says, hey, it's not on your body, it's not in your inventory. You can buy it back. And then you do, and it costs you some AUEC, a reasonable amount. It should cost you more than it does to just purchase the thing, to get some of it like instantly back to your hand. Like it's a convenience thing, right? And some of it you can't get back. So like your subscriber gear, 100%, you should be able to reclaim that through insurance. I get it. That should have been your T0. You know what'd be neat is if they had like gear recovery missions. So like the insurance company says, hey, go recover this gear. We know it's trashed because they got shot in it, but we want it so we can refurb it, right? Like a core charge. And so you get a mission to go out and pick stuff, like, because they used to have like the investigate dead bodies at a crash missions.
What if that was players?
What if it was players? You have so many game loop options.
You get paid when you successfully deliver the gear. So it's a risk for the player, but you're confident in it. Now, what would be hilarious is if you were the player that killed them and then you pick up the gear recovery mission. There's got to be a system for that, because that is the wildest insurance scam, but I can see people doing it for sure.
My buddy killed me, turned in my gear. I got the insurance. We just rinsed and repeated.
You can kind of already do that. You could have your buddy shoot you and then you take their bounty and then you just go kill him and claim the bounty. That would be hilarious. Like, you can already do that. I don't know why you would, but you could.
Crime. It's like when people summon ships just to salvage them. The secret ingredient is crime.
The secret ingredient is crime and no desire to engage with other gameplay mechanics that feel less satisfying than setting up your friends for a crime stat. Did we talk about rock punching?
We did not yet talk
You
about...
love rock punching. Rock punching is your favorite.
I know I've mentioned before on the podcast, but I'll stand to mention it again, and that's that I used to run a fairly large Eve mining corporation. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed punching the rocks, selling the rocks, running the spreadsheets in the background to see if it was worth refining them or selling them raw. Part of that's because Eve has an actually player-driven economy, which is way better than Star Citizens. But Star Citizen will hopefully someday get there soon, TM. But I really enjoy mining as a gameplay loop. I enjoy doing the, taking out the prospector, finding rocks that are worth punching, getting your friends over there to punch those rocks while you go look for more rocks, getting a transport ship, which doesn't work at the moment, but is supposed to work eventually, come out, pick up the full boxes, give you empty boxes. They run the boxes back so you can continue to mine, which is the gameplay loop that you're trying to engage in. So why would we interrupt you? It's been a blast, pun intended. The Golem was real fun to fly. It is a neat little ship. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the Prospector. The Mole is a delight, and it's a fun game loop. It's got a little bit of like investigative work because you got to find rocks that are worth punching and that your mining laser can actually handle. I have some issues with there being too few of those rocks, but that's on me. I think there should be a better scanning system for punchable rocks. Maybe there will be someday, but there's like a little mini game you're playing with the mining laser to not overcook the rock or undercook the rock.
The choices that you have to make about the mining heads and the equipment that you bring feel really, really meaningful to the type of mining that you want to do. I love that. I'm big on choice having meaning.
They implemented this pretty well. I'm happy to see it. I know it's got a little ways to go before it's peak, but I would really, and very well might, with an alt or something, maybe start a mining corp. And hey, we're going to go out and we have a couple golems here that you can take and a couple moles. And there's one or two guys in a prospector going out and finding the rocks worth punching. And then the team comes along and mines them down. And then you've got one player in probably a caterpillar, not just because I like the caterpillar, but it's kind of set up to do this because you've got the two tractor beams so they can just disengage their, boxes, pull them into the front and then unload the sides. I know that the Carrack will technically someday be able to do specifically that with its holds, but they don't work right now. So I think that'll be so fun and a good way to get like a group of people playing the game together, which is supposed to be the point. And I think it'll have relevance too for us in this org because this is the kind of stuff that we do to make money, right? Because running the org costs money. We don't charge anything for our rescues. And there's an awful lot of AUEC that goes into providing this rescue service. And so I think that'll be a good way. And someday, when you're making ships and making components and you need the raw materials, mining's going to be the way to do that, right? And we might be a self-sustaining org, we might not. That's going to, how the game plays out. But having the ability to do that, I think would be really cool. But I think I might still want to focus. It's like in Foxhole, there's a group called the Halberds, and they focus explicitly on producing one thing. They produce tanks. They have a gameplay loop they've figured out for that cycle, and not all they do, but like they're really, really good at just producing tanks. And I think seeing player orgs get like, hey, we as an org make, racing ships. We make really good racing ships. We send people out to gather the components. We build, Mustang Omegas or whatever, or 350s off of the blueprints, and we build our own custom version and we sell them as a package. That's going to be an awesome player loop someday. I know they've talked about doing that, and mining is, I think, the first step. Mining in contested zones, I think someday are going to have the blueprints instead of the actual part, right? Instead of trying to pick up a ship component, you're going out to get a hard drive that has, how do you make, a class A racing engine or cooler? Here we go, theory crafting about the awesome future.
That's the thing, isn't it? Is seeing all of these
sort of alpha T0 introductory pieces and where it could go, where we can go from here that we're really excited about. We're not there yet.
But we have seen some progress. As grumpy as I am sometimes about this game, there's a reason I keep coming back to play it, and there's a reason I keep coming back with these people to play it. And it's not just because I really like the people. I do. I've made a lot of really good friends in this org. I've made a lot of really good friends in some other groups. But this game can, when it's good,
It's so good.
it's so pretty. We had a rescue the other day over the tundras with like I think it's on Microtech, but it's that planet that's like huge tundras with a little boreal forest, and we're coming over and a snowstorm's breaking just as the sun's coming up, and it was just so pretty. And it was one of those things like this, dogfighting an NPC over this gorgeous landscape. It's why I play this game. Mining in deep space and seeing, all the stars and the sun in the background and playing these little mini games. And even, a lot of people might disagree with me, but I have a lot of fun doing bunker missions. I think the turrets are a little OP right now, but it's fun. It can be so fun when it works.
It really can. And I do, for all of my complaining, I do keep coming back over and over again. And I do keep playing because there have been improvements. The game is getting better. It's getting better in some areas and feels less stable in others, but there is still work being done. And I do believe that game stability and continuing to push for Squadron 42 release and push for 1.0 beta is a priority for them, because the crushing news we received a couple days ago is that there will be no in-person CitizenCon this year, which genuinely had me nearly in tears because all of my Star Citizen friends live nowhere near me. That's not true. One of my Star Citizen friends lives somewhat close to me. Everybody else is spread out all over North America and all over Europe. And the opportunity I get to see them is CitizenCon. The opportunity that I get to see people that I've met in other orgs is at CitizenCon. The opportunity I get to learn about new orgs is CitizenCon. There's going to be watch parties. I'm sure that the Bar Citizen group is going to get heavily involved in supporting watch parties and events around the one-day digital only. And I understand that it's so incredibly expensive to put together a full in-person con over multiple days, and that it is an enormous amount of work for every employee of CIG, I'm sure. I'm sad. I'm real sad.
You're not alone. I was actually gonna be able to go this year, which is the devastating thing, because I couldn't go last year because of outside, let's call them requirements.
I was hoping that, this year it would be in North America so I could see the North American crew. Last year I flew out to Manchester and I got to meet some of the North American players, but mostly all the Europeans that I play with that I'm not going to really have an opportunity to see in one place again until the next Euro CitCon. So many people were like, oh, CitCon this year is going to be great. We're finally going to get a chance to meet in person. We're finally going to get a chance to hang out. I had already pre-scoped like hotels and Airbnbs in the North American locations I thought it might be, so that when they announced the location, I was like ready to rock. I was like, I got some 6 spots planned where we can put 12 to 16 people. It's going to be amazing. I can't do that now. I'm going to do it anyway. I might have my own CitCon with things I can't say on this podcast. If you know, you know. Yeah, you can. You're a director. I'm a measly executive.
It's but she wants us. She'll edit that out later, but there's gonna be a bleep over what I'm saying.
I'm going to. Usually I would just cut it, but I think in this instance I'm going to just censor it. We're great.
What's the space drug? There's illegal drugs. There's ETAM, maze, slam.
Slam. We're gonna just snort slam in the Montreal Airbnb.
Oh, you know what we should do is let's have a wonderful night with some neon.
We'll just bring all the drugs. Medrunner always has all the drugs anyway.
I mean,
we gotta make money somehow.
That was when I had billion with a B fortune in the 3 series. It was made selling primarily maze and neon.
And I loved that because you funded 3 redeemers for me when the game kept eating my redeemers.
I bought 49 at last count redeemers and I believe 23 Cutlass Reds for the organization. with that drug money.
So when Medrunner says, no, really, you don't need any ships, we will provide one for you, they're talking about Virus 8. They're talking about Virus 8's deep, drug-dusted pockets. As he has continued this pattern of buying gunships and flight instructor ships for Academy for my staff who are like, I don't have time to teach and farm money. It's like, that's what we've got a director for. That's what Virus 8 is for. It's really why we keep him around.
One of the things that I have a benefit being an old hand is I've been around long enough that it used to be that you could buy starter AUEC for a patch from the pledge store real cheap. So I start with a good nest egg every patch, which sets me up to make money very quickly. You know, it's one thing if you're only starting out with 50,000 AUEC. I'm already in 7 figures.
Insane. Insane. And I love it because you bought me a Constellation Andromeda, and I think three of my staff members have also been funded Connie's plus components out of your pockets. I love it. You were an excellent choice for Academy director.
I mean, I think that would make me a better choice for logistics sugar daddy than Academy director. But
what's the difference?
Both is good. But yeah, no, I'm super sad to not have that CitizenCon opportunity this year. If at the very least, I'm going to try and either attend or throw a watch party, hopefully with a bunch of Medrunner friends. I know a couple of them live somewhat locally to me. I am more than willing to get a few more. I have access to spaces.
I'm keeping an ear to the ground for events and ideas of what we can do as a Medrunner group to kind of bring everybody together in the server, do something fun, or, you know, things that are happening locally. I'm keeping an ear to the ground with what Bar Citizen is doing. I'm trying to reach out to other org friends in large orgs to see what are you guys doing, and see if we can bring a little bit more in-person joy to this. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what CIG has planned because they said they're hoping to plan some watch parties and events around that. So I'm optimistic that it will be more enjoyable than I am worried about it being sad, but there's nothing that really replaces that in-person experience. We've talked about this a lot, especially on the heels of the last episode we dropped before the hiatus being the CitizenCon retrospective, that so much of the heart of this game is the community, is the people and the orgs and those interactions. And it just feels like losing a little bit of that this year. I don't think that's really going to happen, but that was kind of the emotional hit. I don't know if we want to talk about this on the podcast because we haven't really like made a big public announcement. But one of the things that I have been doing since CitizenCon, and is now live and effectively public knowledge, is as of February 1st, we have a new department. It's our community department, which integrates our moderation department with 3 new sub-departments: diplomacy, internal relations, and public relations. And I am the executive of that department. And one of my jobs is helping to build these kinds of events for our community, interact with events happening in other communities. And so this feels like a time where I and my department maybe can step up and help figure out what we want to do, because everybody in the server was like, what? Oh, this is really sad. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do as an org? What are we going to do as a community of friends around CitizenCon?
My secret hope, and they haven't said that this won't happen, is that there's like an in-game con at the very least, where you can go like a Fleet Week style or an IAE style. Like you have these huge convention centers that already exist. You have the in-game assets. Just put a screen that plays like a video that you're live streaming. Or afterwards. I don't know. I think it'd be neat.
And you know what? If CIG is not going to do that, we as a player base can do that. We got 600 player servers now, baby.
Hey, Chris Roberts, can I give you a couple $100 and we'll rent out the New Babbage Convention Center? I'm just saying.
New Babbage Convention Center host pass dropping on the pledge store.
$2,000.
You know, we as a community have a lot of options here. We as a community are, and I don't just mean Medrunner, I mean the entire player-based community. We've seen how powerful that community is. We've seen player-run organizations do insane things both in-game and out of game. We can all choose to do something special around this. And I think it's actually maybe a great opportunity for the community to pull together and be like, you know what? If we are missing this in-person time, if we're missing this structured community time, let's build it.
We were talking a little bit ago about always coming back to this game, and I said it wasn't just the community, but I think I may have lied to our viewers or listeners, as it were. I think that is one of the biggest things that keeps me coming back. And I don't mean like the friends are important, but it's the cool stuff the community keeps doing, sometimes in concert with and sometimes in spite of the game, right? It's the cool things and events and player, like setting up a field hospital at Orison, or like the Daymar rally, or the huge PvP that y'all in the community department organized, or some of the just interactions and loops that these communities make out of nothing, right? The Medrunner loop is created out of nothing. There's not even beacons in game right now, if I recall. They're gone.
Yeah, I believe they're still broken and non-functional. We're here. We built our own system.
We did. And there's so many groups out there that have done that. And I think we're actually going to see that same thing once it gets a little more stable for the transitioning of stuff. I think someone's going to find a way to monetize in-game the sale of those higher level parts is going to be that peddler we talked about. I think there's going to be groups that do that. And I think more than the go to bunker A, shoot 9 tails, come home. That's the stuff that keeps me coming back to this game. It's that really awesome community and that community driven content and that work that we do to make this game more than the sum of its very broken parts.
Genuinely incredible to see what people in this community are building. As part of supporting that PvP event that we participated in, we leveraged a tool built by a member of the community called Citizen Commander. And it's an incredible tool. You know, I have a lot of experience with the tooling that we've built internally in Medrunner, which is incredibly robust and professionally built by our IT team. Shout out to our very, very hardworking developers. And we're not the only ones. There are people building incredible tools to support people doing things that are kind of not fully supported in game by CIG. A lot of these org tools and fleet management tools that I would love to see in game, but they're not there. So the community said, whatever, we'll do it ourselves. And the quality of these tools.
I mean, look at SC Marketplace.
Look at SC Marketplace, right? Look at SC Marketplace. Look at Citizen Commander. Look at what we're building. Look at Urkel and SP Viewer and Seastone, Delta Consulting. Like all of these tools are provided for free by other players in the community who are like, I want to spend my time and energy doing stuff for people that I have never met and may never meet, but might get value out of my time. That's crazy. That is wild. And I love that.
It gives me such a glimmer of hope in humans sometimes when I desperately need
chills, like literal chills, being like, look at all of these wonderful, good people. It is 1,000% what keeps me coming back to this game.
I think my parting shot is a highlight on that last little bit we were talking about, which is the community. And I'm thankful we're part of that community. And I'm thankful to the people who listen to this that include us in their community. And I'm so thankful that every time we've reached out to these other orgs and other places, they've been willing to include us. And they always are, not just as a podcast, but as an organization. People are always looking to build these new and awesome things. And even when we face incalculably irritating setbacks, instead of getting down and getting out, they kind of dust off their hands and go, ooh boy, let's make this better. And I have never been in a community that is as resilient and generally good-hearted as Star Citizen as a gaming community. I'm not saying everybody here is a perfect peach, but like on the whole, it's a pretty good place to be.
That's my takeaway as well. Through all of the pain and frustration of 4.0 is that we're all still here. We're all talking about ways that we can continue to enjoy the game, continue to function as an org, not just Medrunner, but other orgs. What are we doing in the meantime? And finding ways to make it easier to stick around through these rough spots, because we all care about the game, but we all care about each other. And that's the show. We are out of time today.
Thank you again to all of our wonderful community members for listening and continuing this journey despite its ups and downs.
Thank you for joining us on Hangar 8. Remember, fly safe out there.
And when you can't, Medrunner has your back. Ding.
This has been Hangar 8, the Medrunner podcast. Our executive producer is Tristan, and today's episode was produced and edited by Gryffkin, with production support and sound engineering provided by FeatherSnow. If you want to learn more about Medrunner, you can visit medrunner.space or follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, or Instagram under Medrunner SC. For all things Star Citizen, visit robertspaceindustries.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time.